Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
How brilliant to see both of your happy, smiling faces this morning. Rafi, how you doing? You well?
I'm very good, thanks, Leo. Yeah, a bit tired. It's been a long week, but I'm good.
Now, we didn't have a 5-day week in the UK, so perhaps you did. And I think for anyone based in France, a 5-day week must feel very long.
We actually have 4-day weeks. So
Rafi,
this is
why
like
are you tired?
Every week is a 4-day week for us. No, I'm tired because we had a big owner event that I was sort of organizing, and it happened on Tuesday. It was really positive. The organization part of it was very stressful for me, but it's over, and I think it went well in terms of the owner experience. It was quite positive. We got some really good feedback from it.
Nice. Okay, great. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later and what's come from that. Damien, here you are, my friend, Mr. Scale Conferences. How are you feeling? Still exhausted, or are you catching up?
Still in recovery. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks, but it takes a while. But all good, Leo. All good. We're looking ahead already, looking for speakers in Dubai, in London, etc. So yeah, it's kind of it's a constant journey, but all good. All good.
Well, it's a great show. I enjoyed myself. I think the audience probably heard how much we were enjoying ourselves in our piece that we did. Really good. I'm excited for the upcoming ones. I fancy a bit of Dubai in the autumn. Must be. When is it again? When's that one?
It's October 9th and 10th. It's this is a time when it's not especially hot. We went last year to source a venue. It's still like mid-30s or so. So it is not a cool place to go. It is in one respect, but it's don't expect it to be easy weather for you, because it's pretty hot.
Mid-30s being cool is terrifying, isn't it? But delightful in October. You might just find you get an application from me to speak based on that, and then justify it to the family that I have to go. So thanks, Damien. Tell me, my friend, what do you know of the landscape in Dubai and the Middle East? It feels like there isn't a lot going on there, or am I being ignorant? What have you found on your investigations?
Look, we went in quite blind, really, just knowing that it's an emerging market and a lot of new operators over the last couple of years. But that's pretty much what we found when we went last year. We had an event where about 60 or so property managers came, maybe more, in fact. And the level of enthusiasm is next level. And some of these managers have hundreds of units. They've only been, going for a year, maybe. Obviously, it's a different landscape whereby you have, huge buildings, lots of units in the same building. But to say it's booming, I think, is an understatement. I think economically there are issues like everywhere. But it's an exciting one, and we've got a lot of interest. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how the event plays out and how the local short-term rental economy turns out there in the next few years.
Yeah, interesting. The big buildings, lots of apartments, feels a bit more like Middle America, doesn't it? In that respect, and you imagine that things get built with an expectation that not all units will be filled, right? So does that mean that they encourage more short-term rental in a part of the world, or is it still a bit regulated like it is here?
I'm not sure if they're necessarily being encouraged, but more people are cotton on to the potential of short-term rentals, for sure. And I think it does breed excitement. Not so much regulation, as far as I'm aware, as yet. But as we know, it's coming. If it hasn't come to most places, it's on the way, and this is one of the articles that I'm going to speak about later on.
Now, that's October. Before then, we've got the small matter of your summer of love, your summer of sitting on the couch and doing absolutely nothing, as well as being a hands-on dad. Tell us about it so far. What have you done? What have you achieved in these 2 weeks?
Summer of love. That sounds pretty dodgy, but no, it's very much just a summer of taking time and recuperating. Getting my head back to where it should be, because these events, as Rafi said, are kind of hard to put on, take a lot out of your life. So I am going to watch a lot of sports, be very silly with my 2 young kids, and just enjoy time. That's
Love
essentially it. Starting with the French Open this week, and there's going to be a lot of tennis, a lot of football, a lot of Olympics, and I'm unashamedly looking forward to it.
Yeah, good for you. I think you've well and truly earned it. Not much to report from my side, guys. Just more dad life things like Damien. Of course, I was at the FA Cup final, which I mentioned. So that was obviously a big day for Man United. We managed to win against our big rivals, so that was obviously phenomenal. And then apart from that, 7-week-old baby boy sleeping pretty well, keeping us all on our toes. Well, no, our daughter's keeping us all on our toes, but the boy is actually doing quite well. Damien, you can probably remember this, right? It's you have your second kid, and it's the older one that's more trouble than the younger one.
Serious jealousy issues for about a year. Yeah, we kind of think, oh, we've had one, another one will be fine, but it's just like, no, 1 + 1 = kind of 3 or 4. It ain't easy, but you'll be through it in a few years. Lee.
Can I say, Rafi? Not once did Damien tell me this when I was leading up to becoming a dad for the second time.
Congratulations, amazing news.
I'm not surprised.
Are we allowed to swear on this? But no,
yes,
maybe not.
Yes. Anyway, there you go. Maybe you wouldn't have wanted to warn me anyway. Maybe it's best just to find out in the moment. So there you go. Yep. So that's me anyway. Rafi, tell us more. You've been taking some lessons from Damien, organizing events and parties with your owners. Tell us a bit more about it and tell us what it was all for.
Yeah. Okay. Well, much smaller event than what Damien organized. So if I'm stressed with this one, I can't imagine what Damien went through. But this is an event that we put on for our owners to try and keep them engaged. It's an opportunity for them to exchange amongst each other, exchange with us, and also learn about sort of what's happening in the industry and at the company. And one of the big things that we did is we gave a presentation around just generally where we're at the industry. So, we're seeing an increase in supply. In the Alps, we're seeing that the demand has sort of like leveled out with what we were seeing in 2019, but the supply is much higher. So in terms of like, from an owner perspective, it's like, well, I'm not getting enough bookings. Where are my bookings? But we have to explain to them that this is kind of what the landscape is. Also, the fact that we're getting less and less snow in winter, we can't rely on that so much, and just everything with regulations that are coming. So we're trying to keep them kind of up to date on all of that to make sure that they understand the landscape that they're operating in. And then what we did is we gave them a bit of an introduction to our new brand positioning, which we've been working on, which is actually really timely with everything that's going on. And that brand positioning is that we can't move the mountains, but we can shape their future. What this means is that we are basically really going to be investing a lot more into our local communities. We aim to collaborate, help, and represent our local communities more and more. We're also aiming to promote the Alps as a year-round destination as opposed to just a winter destination. We see ourselves as a solution against cold beds because of that, because we're really trying to increase occupancy throughout the year. And finally, we're just trying to become a bit more conscious around our impact on the environment. So being able to introduce all of this to our owners and like really explain it in depth meant that I think that they're getting much more, they're experiencing much more buy-in into our brand. I mean, they already had it. A lot of them have been around for many years, but I think that they really feel connected to the values that we're presenting to them and to what we're trying to stand for. And it was interesting to see their reactions, because suddenly the questions that they had were much more around, the larger picture as opposed to just, their property. And also they were coming up to us and saying, oh, let me introduce you to this and this person that I know from this, ski resort and all these things. And it's like, suddenly there's much more of a group dynamic that's happening with all of this. So it was really interesting. And I think that this is really, really positive for us. and I'm excited to see where it goes.
That's very, very interesting. I love that mapping out of the landscape as it stands in front of you in the Alps. It probably leads on to what Damien's going to talk about in his article as well. But this idea that, I guess, the climate's changing, over tourism. Is there a tough regulatory landscape to go alongside that, Rafi, or is it more just the ski season's getting shorter and people are more conscious of that rather than a housing crisis?
There are new regulations coming in France. I don't know all of the details, and it's also a little bit unclear for us whether that impacts the whole country equally, or if there are some zones that are, maybe like the urban zones where we operate that are less impacted by these regulations. So these are things that we're trying to figure out. But we are definitely at an advantage because we're not in the cities. And we're also operating in an area which is very much dependent on tourism. So they can't just go in and say, well, we need to get rid of short-term rentals. So, but yeah, it's evolving for sure.
Yeah, I guess the dream, right, is, I don't know how realistic this is, that, you do turn it into more of a year-long market so that it does, the ski season has less environmental impact, right? That's kind of what you're saying, potentially, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, cool. We'll keep us updated on that one, Rafi. Let's go into Damien, because I think this is quite relevant here. It's an article from, let me bring it up and then I'll know where the article's from. It's an article from Short-Term Rentals, Paul Stevens. Decree to seal off illegal rentals passed by Balearic government. Damien, our man in Spain, you should know all about this.
I knew about it when I read it. This is, well, look, it's another one of those stories that we read, every week about a government passing a law that is, can appear to be quite draconian about dealing with the problems of holiday rentals. And this particular one is about the Balearic Islands and the local government effectively signing a decree which says that illegal holiday rental units can be sealed off. Now, I think this is it's a bit of scaremongering, and I think there's a little bit of trying to appease the demonstrators on the island. So just to put a bit of the context to this, over the last couple of years, a lot of locals on these islands have been demonstrating and voicing their opinions against over-tourism. And, we have no problem with this. Obviously, we agree if it's a problem to the environment, to the local economy, to people being able to buy homes. I think we all would agree that there needs to be regulation, which there is on the islands. And I believe new licenses were stopped last year. I believe it's coming up to a year or so, and there are no more holiday rental licenses to be granted for another year or two. However, I think this headline about them being sealed off potentially is not something that's going to happen. I think that will be something that will be fought in courts for many years. I don't think it's realistic. But look, it's another one of these stories across Spain and across Europe, whereby there are issues between locals and tourists. I believe in the Balearic Islands there have been a lot of cases whereby local tourist attractions have had signs put up by locals just to say closed, do not enter, or tourists not welcome, which is quite intimidating for people who are coming in for a holiday for a week or two. So there does need to be some kind of balance there. I think regulation does help that. But if there are illegal rental units, obviously that needs to be addressed. Whether there needs to be a threat of them being sealed off I don't agree with, but fines, sure, of course.
Such an interesting topic. And it goes into all these things that we were talking about earlier. I'll be very cynical for a second, and then I'll be less cynical. So just cynical hat on. Damien, do you think there's a play here by the hotel industry to kind of limit short-term rentals so they can get planning permission for more hotels and, shore up their revenue for years to come?
Well, we know that short-term rentals is an easy scapegoat in instances like this, but I believe now I might need to come back to this. I might just need to do a quick check, but I believe hotel units are affected by this. One of the other laws as part of this decree as well. So not necessarily, Leo, in this case. Any other time, I would say yes, for sure. They have much more power than we do, and there is usually a hotel lobby behind this. But in this particular case, I'm not 100% sure.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've always understood the regulatory requirements in big cities. I think that's really logical. People are living, working, need places to live. So that, I mean, first of all, I agree with regulation wherever it's put in, as long as it's sensible and pragmatic. But I find it really strange because if you live on one of these islands, you probably most likely rely on tourism for some of your income or all of your income. Or your neighbors do, your friends do. So we're in this really interesting place with over tourism, and you can talk there's many theories about why it happens. Growing middle class globally, cheaper flights, digital nomads. Mean that people can go away more often and have a week's holiday and a week working remotely. All of that's true, but it's interesting how these islands would have welcomed tourism, certainly for the last 50, 60, 70 years. And now that the tide's turning and actually people are saying no to tourism. I again, unsurprised that was the case in places like London, Paris, New York. Surprised that it's starting to happen now in tourist destinations. Clearly, we've seen the same thing in the Canary Islands as well. So yeah, again, less cynical hat on. I think this over-tourism thing is a problem in the short term. And I hope what it does is it means that more areas become desirable to tourists as there's more people going on holiday, right? And it's not just these hot spots getting really slammed at key times of year, because clearly one of the charming things about these islands is the locals that support the economy, and without them you don't have activities and amenities and things you can do. Rafi, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely agree. I think as travelers, we're also a little bit responsible for trying to avoid destinations that we know are victims of over tourism and trying to find different experiences. I've never been to the Balearic Islands. I'd love to. Maybe I will, but it's always great to discover new places as well. I think that so in this particular case, they're going to want to ban the illegal rentals. I'm not really sure what that's going to have as an effect, because currently, if I'm not mistaken, there's a big fee for illegal rentals, like up to 90,000 euros. I mean, if that's already not doing the job, then I don't know if making them illegal and putting them off of the market is going to make any difference whatsoever. So, but I think that the protests and the concerns of locals are completely relevant. I definitely understand them, but there are definitely different ways to tackle this than simply going for the short-term rental industry. And yeah, there are a lot of different concerns to be met.
Obviously, things you're thinking about, as we've talked about in the Alps as well. Damien, you obviously live in a tourist town. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, so please enjoy correcting me. Nerja?
I spend a lot of time in Nerja, exactly.
There you go. Any sign of protests or people not being happy with the status quo there?
There are in parts of the Malaga region and in Malaga city center itself, which goes along with what you were saying about urban areas. But no, Nerja is a town that relies heavily on tourism, and the hospitality industry relies, almost, exclusively on tourism. So no, I've never seen any certainly demonstrations, but never even any graffiti or anything along those lines. So I'd say no, Leo. But maybe an island mentality is different, and I'm not meaning that in any kind of condescending way. I think it's more localized. And perhaps people are more parochial about the living on those particular islands, and and especially the chance to do what any of us may want to do, like find a home and live where we were born and where we were brought up. And you've got to respect that. If that's been affected by people coming in to buy, which actually I must say that is the case in Nerja and throughout the whole of the Malaga province, from foreigners coming in. I completely respect that. And I think something does have to be done in terms of house pricing and enabling local people to get on that ladder and not to be at the expense of others coming in who can just afford to, buy 1, 2+ units.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I guess that we go back to this thing, sensible regulation means that you can, plan accordingly and make sure that you have enough tourists coming in without affecting the mix for locals. I just think it's a really interesting wider conversation as when does a leisure market start to tip in the direction that means that the locals are unhappy with it. I think this is something we're probably going to revisit as we go into the summer, because I think we're going to see more hotspots where this sort of thing flares up. And again, Rafi, you can tell us how it's going for you guys in the Alps at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. Thanks, Damien. Let's go on to our next article. And we're back here again because there's still just so much more to discuss. I was really enjoying it when I was reading this. Rafi, I'm looking forward to your take on this. So it's an article from Skift. ChatGPT, Google, and Meta want to own your next trip. Rafi, tell us about this one.
So OpenAI, Google, and Meta are, of course, investing heavily in AI, as most big corporations. It's the big thing that we all need to sort of keep ahead of the curve on. The main investments are going around trip planning, visual translations, voice capabilities, and I guess sort of travel conciergerie services. So OpenAI and Google's Gemini models are enhancing travel planning with personalized real-time assistance and sophisticated language translations. And then Meta is integrating AI into their smart glasses and messaging apps to further bridge the gap between digital and physical travel experiences. This is all, I mean, I want to test it. Like, I want to know, as a traveler myself, I want to be able to test it to see sort of what the experience is like in terms of trip planning, which I haven't been able to do. But interesting to see where it's all going, that all of this is, most of the investments are really going into trip planning. And I think the idea is really just to make that whole thing more convenient, the whole experience more convenient, and also more personalized for travelers. So I think it makes sense. It's gonna make everyone's lives a bit easier when they're trying to plan a trip. Hopefully, there's this whole trust element that we need to sort of get behind. So I'm not really. I'm wondering if travelers are going to be using it right away, and if they're really going to be relying on that, or if they're still going to value that sort of more human aspect to the services when they're trying to plan a trip. And that's one of the things I would say, as smaller operators, that's something that we can tap into and leverage, is the fact that we're able to actually provide that more human touch to the experience. But yeah, I am kind of worried in terms of the small operators. How are we going to keep up with remaining visible within this landscape? What strategies can we put in place to remain competitive? I think that when I was thinking about it, there's definitely the distribution aspect. We have to keep making sure that we're visible across the board. So distribute and also direct bookings. Those are two things that we need to continue. Don't put all your eggs in one basket there. We should also, like I was saying about, what we're doing with our brand positioning, really tap into the hyper-local approach. So really try to tap into that maximum amount and make the best of the fact that we actually really know where we're operating. We know the area, and we're able to provide much more detailed and unique information around that. ChatGPT has also developed their API now, so we can leverage that on our website and create our own little AI solutions. But then finally, again, the human touch is something that I would like to believe is going to continue and maybe increase in value with all of these AI developments.
Yeah, really interesting. Damien, what do you think?
Just with this particular article, they mentioned, and I'd never heard of this before, the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, whereby you can potentially read a menu or something, and then the glasses will be able to feed this information back to you about what it is you're reading. That kind of experience, I detest where our technology is taking us, because if we have now, when we travel, we've no need to learn a language or interact with a waiter or someone like that. I think that's a slippery slope where we're going to lose cultural identity, and the whole premise of a holiday is going to be lost. So this, for me, aside from the planning side of things, I fear for where we're headed. And perhaps, that's the traditionalist in me, but I'm not a fan. But that said, I think, younger generations perhaps will embrace this, and we have to keep up with it in a certain respect. But yeah, that's just my feeling on that.
You love pointing at what you want on the menu, right? And waving at the waiter or waitress. Yeah. That is a really important part of the holiday, though, isn't it? It's the smile, it's the looking away from your phone, or in this case, looking above your glasses, right? To actually just engage with the world around you. And I think it's a really interesting point.
Well. It's the whole adapting part as well, which is going to get lost. That is part of what's great about traveling, is you have to adapt to something new and different, and it just creates a much more authentic experience. Well, where's that going?
Yeah, and I think we have to assume that some of this is just it won't take off, right? Because people won't want to use it in that way. But for a lot of people, a holiday is about leaving your phone at home, right? Leaving your phone in your pocket and not really using it. So I kind of agree with you, Damien, on those bells and whistles points. But I do think this is a direct challenge to two particular strands of our industry. The first and most obvious one is probably the sort of guest upsells, guest portals, like activity planning businesses. If people do really go, if the AI providers go really heavily into that, and I don't know, maybe you stay relevant by just making sure that your activities are advertised effectively, so that you come up on their ranking when they're trying to promote something to you, and maybe that's how you survive it. But it does feel like a challenge to that, and it also does really feel like a challenge. The trip planning aspect feels like a challenge to the OTA. And again, Rafi, it goes back to what we discussed when you were trying to work out, and you're in the process of working out AI, search in the AI world, right? And how to make sure that OVO network appear. But if you have, let's use OVO network as an example, a company that is synonymous with a region, goes deep with its content, knows its host, knows its guests, that's more likely to appear higher up the ranking with something like Google's trip planning through Gemini, rather than another OTA, which they might deprioritize. And I think Google's wanted to have a go at the OTA world for a while, and this to me feels like their best way of doing it. And I guess you as an operator then have the ability to say, well, yeah, I'm going to focus on my local area to make sure that Google tips me as being the company to choose to travel. So I don't know if you have a view on that, Rafi, but to me, I think that's quite exciting, because it maybe bashes up something that in the OTA world that's been quite hard to shake for the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely that, but I would also add having a niche. If you're just going to offer short-term rentals across all the different, standards of quality, and all the different, I mean, our niche is really specific. It's high end, but also, it's chalets. So that we have those two elements there that just make it a lot easier for us to at least hope to get, found in the search engines when AI is developed. But I think that's definitely a big one as well. Both the local and the niche is really important.
And we're trying to book our holiday at the moment. So I used ChatGPT to see what it would come up with, and it did provide very often, not always, a link to a local operator, not to an OTA, which I thought was really interesting. So I was putting the region, how many kids we had, the dates we wanted, with a pool, all that sort of stuff, and it was brilliant. It was really, really good, and it was really interesting because it didn't just give me the usual names. There was a bit of that, but it was very often a local operator, which I thought, well, this could definitely be the future. And having done it once, I would definitely think about using it. I would probably always use it as a way of searching from now on. So yeah, I'm a fan.
Is that ChatGPT that you were using?
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what the Google Gemini is gonna look like in terms of the quality of the output. I've heard mixed things. I've actually heard quite a few negative things. It's not quite where they want it to be right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree. I was thinking that as I was using it. I was like, I think it will be better when Google get it right, interestingly. But yeah, it was good enough for sure. And we use some of those links and are forming our list of where we want to go from it. So it has worked, legitimately.
Yeah, interesting.
Gang, we're out of time. It's flown by. It's absolutely. We didn't even have time to go through all the things we wanted to talk about. Rafi, thank you. Lovely to see you.
Great to see you too.
Damien, lovely to see you, my friend. Get back to the sofa. Find some sport to watch immediately.
Will do. I'll look forward to it.
And guys, if you enjoyed the show, find us in all the usual social places, like, follow, share, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.